Welcome along, everybody, to our Power Platform community for December 2021. Yes, it is finally the end of the year. We're looking forward to a break, a bit of a holiday, and hopefully a new and upbeat 2022. But I do take this opportunity to thank you all for joining us today in this final webinar around the Power Platform. Look forward to new stuff coming into 2022 as well. So we have started the webcast. I have checked that the things are recording. And again, please check the sound at your end if you find any issues. If there are, just generally drop off the call and rejoin again. If you do want to contact me, you can do so direct at ciaops.com and also on the Twitter at directorcia. We're aiming to give you lots of great information today around the Power Platform and especially on Power BI. So if you've come for that, you are in the right place. As I said, we are recording it, but best idea is to just give us your focus for the next hour or so, and we'll share the best information around those topics for you. So our agenda is pretty simple, straightforward. We'll talk about our presenters, and then we'll do a bit of a Power Platform update, what's been happening around in the platform. Lots is always going on. We'll then do a demonstration on Power BI, what all that is about, and the guys will be there to explain that, and then we'll jump into the Q&A around that. So with that, enough from me. Why don't I hand over to our first presenter for today.
Cheers, Robert. Thanks to everyone for attending today's session. It's much appreciated. And for those who don't know me, I'm Andrew from Power Assist. I have experience using all Microsoft products, creating modern workplace environments, and now focusing on using the Power Platform to improve business processes. I write a weekly blog on both Microsoft 365 and the Power Platform and try to assist new developers where I can. So please don't hesitate to contact me on any of the platforms listed on the screen. Now it's over to Bill.
Thanks, Andrew. My name is Bill Mallett from Mallett Solutions. Our goal at Mallett Solutions is to help small and medium-sized businesses to stand out from their competition through use of the tools that are available within the Power Platform. And my socials are shown on this screen. And so if you want to contact me, feel free to do so. And now I'll pass on to Yeoman.
Thanks, Bill. I'm a small, medium-sized business owner too. So in this space, I aim to help other similarly sized organizations solve their business problems using everything we do in Microsoft Cloud, including Microsoft 365 and now the Power Platform. So through the Power Platform, I see great opportunities for other businesses to actually automate some of their business and actually solve some of the real business problems so they can get on with just running their business or thinking about ways of growing their business. And with that, we'll start off to the new section. Thanks, Robert.
Right. Yep. Thanks, guys. All right. Thanks for the update. Remember that the big benefit of these guys is that they work and run their own small businesses. They are focusing on the Power Platform and improving their knowledge daily on this. This, I think, makes them particularly relevant in today's market. You see a lot of talk about the Power Platform typically at the enterprise level. So again, I think the SMB is a little bit specialized. So feel free to reach out, contact the guys directly, or I would suggest at the very minimum, connect up with their LinkedIn and put them into your profile so you can keep in touch with what they're doing. Now, of course, things change and update and improve and move forward with the Power Platform. And with that, we're aiming to give you the latest information on that. So why don't we dive into that and let Andrew kick us off with what's new in the Power Platform.
Thank you, Robert. For those that don't know, Thursday, a week ago, I went and sat my PL200 exam. This was the first time I had sat an exam above the fundamental grade, and I studied really, really hard and got a good result. But I must admit, when I got my certificate, I was a bit surprised to see that the it expired in 1 year, not the 2 years like I'd expected. Now, as I said before this, I've done fundamental exams which don't have an expiry date, but Microsoft has made changes to the higher end exams, such as the PL200. And so the good news is rather than having to resit the exam every 2 years, they expire in 1 year, but you get to sit an online, extra online questions for free. And if you pass those questions, your certification then gets extended for another year. Now, the other good news is that you can, if you don't pass those questions, you can sit and do those questions as many times as you would like, right up until the expiry of your exam. So for all people out there that's doing the specialty exams, yeah, you can use those questions to continue on your certifications without letting expiring. The one thing is you don't want to let it expire, because if it does expire, then you do have to resit the exam. So the next lot of news that I've got is that the custom data feature is now GA, or generally available, in Power BI. So the capability to pass custom data for row-level security is now available in the Power BI Premium and the Power BI Embedded and the Power BI Premium per user licensing. So this means you can natively utilize the custom data feature to add row filters that pass free text to leverage dynamic row level security in embedded reports, dashboards, and tiles. In the past, this feature was limited to basically Azure Analysis Services and SQL Server Analysis Services models, and could not be used within the data sets in Power BI. But now you can leverage this function for your custom application authentication scenarios. This is especially great news for developers who wish to leverage this rich feature suite of the Power BI Premium. And now I think Bill's got some news.
Thanks, Andrew. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the Power Automate desktop. We've talked about it in the past, and you can download it for free on your Windows 10 machine, but on your Windows 11 machine, it comes with Windows 11. But what happens if you develop an automation and you want to share it with others, or you don't want to rely on your own machine to be available when it's run? Well, one obvious way to go about it would be to create an Azure virtual desktop and have it run there. But how do you manage that? How do you get that all set up? Well, if you follow the link that's in this news item, you can go to a starter kit that Microsoft has created that will help you to integrate your Power Automate with your Azure virtual desktop. And interestingly, it's made out of a Power App and some Power Automate. So here we are using our tools to create our own processes and improving them. So that's my first item. My second item, I'm quite excited to announce that we took our little group and applied to Microsoft to become an official community user group, and we got approved last month. And as a result, we now have an official user group on the Microsoft community website. So I think Andrew has posted the link there for you right away. So if you would like to join our user group, click on the link and join up, and you'll be kept up to date with the latest events, and you have the opportunity within that environment to raise questions, and will the community will have the opportunity to answer and help each other out. And that's a free group, so no costs involved in joining the online version of that user group. So very exciting news, and I'll probably have more updates in the future as to what we're able to do with our user group. So look forward to telling you all about that. So now I'll pass on to Yeoman for the next news item.
Thank you, Bill. The first news item I have is a follow-on from something that was announced at Ignite a month ago. And that's more to do with how we can use collaborative comments within the Power Platform, namely Power Automate. So in what's been developed now and is showing will be the way that you can do with other Microsoft 365 applications, you can have comments. So with those comments, you can do things like at another person, or just make some general comments about whether something works or doesn't work. And through this, you can then experience more of that collaborative process where someone will find a bug or an issue or discuss extensibility of some of the things being developed. And then people then follow up through that comments so they can actually pinpoint where you're talking about a problem or a bug or where you're wanting to extend something, and have a very interactive process to actually creating some very cool and very extensive Power Automates. So this is a really good thing because even the three of us actually haven't worked on some Power Automate together. It's just easier to see comments or notes left behind for the next person to just go and pick up and respond to it. My next news item is actually a case study. And what's interesting about this case study is that this involves a 14-year-old Japanese boy, and he suffers from both autism and a condition that actually means he has very big lot of difficulty writing. So this is from he was very young, so he hasn't been able to go to middle school because it relies on written assessments. Now, this young boy has a very keen interest in IT, so his mother got him a laptop after he started playing for his mother's smartphone. And based on that, and based on some books that his mother gave him because he could definitely read and read a lot, is he joined a programming club. And in that programming club, their focus was on Power Apps. So with that keen interest in it, he would learn more and more about Power Apps in this group. Now, his group founders said, well, why don't you try out your skills? So they did. He went to a nearby child daycare center that was volunteering to look after children whose mothers were needing to go and get a COVID-19 vaccine. Now, the problem that this particular center had was they provided food, and they needed to know how much food to prepare each day, depending on which children showed up or when they were showing up. So the problem was that the kitchen staff couldn't go and actually stop every 2 seconds to go and get the food orders because they were all dressed up for cooking, and they couldn't simply just undress gloves and things and so on to actually take the phone orders. So this young boy decided to use Power Apps, Power Automate, and SharePoint to create a very simple app that simply has staff at the center just put in the name of the child or name of the person, whether they're going for lunch or dinner, or whether they're an adult and child, and it would automatically calculate for the kitchen staff what they needed to cook for today and tomorrow. It was created in 90 minutes by this young boy. And so now he's got this real passion to go on to do everything to do with Power Platform and show others and teach others how to do the same thing. So this just goes to show you how easy it can be to take some very simple skills and build on them and learn about the Power Platform, and you can solve real world problems too, just like this young boy. So on that note, I think we'll demonstrate how easy it's going to be to use Power Platform in a few minutes. Thank you, Robert.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Now, remember to follow up with the guys on the socials. You'll get a copy of the slides and the links after the fact if you register today. So I'll make sure that is sent out to you shortly after the webinar has completed. So look out for that in your inbox. Now, with that, it's time to turn over to the meat of our webinar today. We're going to look at Power BI the dashboards and the reports. And to do that, it's best to show you on the screen here. And I believe Andrew has now grabbed my screen, and I'll hand over to him. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Robert. Before I get started, I just thought I'd quickly load up our Power Platform Community User Group site, which would be wonderful if you could all join. Here you can just see a quick intro page, and then if we go over to the discussions, you can have a look at where people have been asking questions and we've been answering. We've also been putting the current Power Platform content in there, so it'd be wonderful if anyone that's online could join up and enjoy the fun. So now what I'm going to do is...
Sorry, Andrew, sorry, just to interrupt, can you minimise that Teams thing in the bottom right, please? People?
Sure. That one? So I'm going to create I'm going to go from start to finish creating a couple of Power BI reports using a connector with Google Analytics, which is connected to my website. So I'm using Power BI Desktop, which is an icon down here in my taskbar, and I'm just going to create a new report. Now, one thing to notice while this loads up, each time you create a new report in Power BI, it creates a new instance of the program opening up. So as you can see, while this opens up, if I click here, you can see the other reports that I currently have opened and running. So unlike Word, where you would, Word opens up once and you have multiple Word documents, every time you create a new report, you get a new instance of the program. You're greeted here with a bit of a spiel where I can open up previous reports. I can get data straight from here, or I can have a look at some information that Microsoft is sending me. I'm just going to close that splash screen, and I'm greeted here because it wants me to gather some data to create a report on. Over the right here, I've got my visualizations, which we'll use a bit later, and the fields once I have the data. So first off, let's get some data. So I click there and I've got a choice of multiple data sources. Now I want to use my Google Analytics, which I can't see there, but if I click the More button, you will see that I get a lot more options to choose from as it loads. And here you can see, look, there's literally, I reckon there's hundreds of them. Now I can filter that out by service. So I can go down to online services, which you can see the Google Analytics here, or if I wanted to filter it even more, I can just sort of type in Google and filters it. So I'm connecting to a Google Analytics service and I press connect. Now it prompts me here that I'm connecting to a third-party service. Obviously Google's not part of Microsoft. And I think the actual connector is written by a third party again. So we're just getting a bit of a warning that, things can change on the Google side, on the connector side, and obviously on the Microsoft side. So if you've written a report and you get some strange results, it's always good to check to see whether the connector has changed in any way. So as we connect to my site, you would normally get prompted for a login here where I'd put my Google Analytics code, username and password. It's actually remembered it from the report that I wrote a bit earlier in the week. And what it's doing now is it's listing my my company name. I click on that, it finds my website, which is the Power Assist website, and I click on that to show all the data. And what I can see here is basically a list of tables that Google has created, storing all of the data from my Power Assist website. Now, to create the first report, I want to choose the user table and the tracking table, the page tracking table. So you'll notice here that there's two types of fields. One is a dimension field and the other one is called a measure field. The dimension field is is an actual object. So, for example, a city would be Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and a metric field would be like the number of users that went to that site or from that city. So you can't create a report with one without the other. So, for example, if I select my host name here, it goes off to get the data, but it's actually going to come back with an error. Now, the reason I've got the error is because I don't have the dimension field, and vice versa. If I get rid of the host name field and I just select the dimension field, once again, the error looks a little bit different, but it's saying the same thing. You can't have one without the other. So let me choose the host name and then a dimension field. And what you'll see is it will, because it's got the two, you can see that it started to load, giving me a sample of the data that I'm loading. So now I'm just going to select a few more fields. So I'm going to get the page depth. Actually, I don't want the page, I want the page depth. Let's get the page title. And let's get a couple more metrics. I'm just going to tick a few. Yeah. Once again, you can see it there loading up a preview, so you can actually see the data that it wants to bring in. And then I go load, and what it does is it goes off to Google. It goes off to Google, gets that data, and loads it into a data set in the Power BI for me to start writing my report on. As it loads the data, this is all dependent upon how fast your internet connection is and how much data that we're trying to load in. So I've just loaded up 152 roads, and over here under the fields column, you can see the website data that have come in. Now, if I click the ellipse here, I get a few different options, and in more an advanced Power BI, we would next year when we do one, we'll go into the measures and columns and that. But for now, I just want to rename this, and I'm just going to call this my report data. Now, from my fields here, you can see over here where it says build visuals with your data, I'm going to select some of my data. So I'm going to select my host name. And as I do that, you can see over here, it's automatically creating a visual report for me. Just going to make it a bit bigger because I'm going to add more data to it. And it's got my host name there. And then what I want to do is I want to add a bit of metrics to it. So I'm going to go the percentage of exits, average time, entrances. And as you see, as I click each one, it's adding it to the report over on the left-hand side. Now, as you can see, as I add more measures, the report becomes more in-depth. So actually, let me take the page title away. You can see how the grouping is a lot smaller because it's on the page depth. But as I add the title, it splits out the information per title. So as you can see, each page of the website and the metrics associated to that. So that basically gives us, a really simple report. So the next report that I want to do is I want to create some nice visualizations. So let's create a new page here. I'm going to get some more data back from our Google Analytics connector. Connect it up, load it up, and this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some users, and I want to see which users are new users, which new users are existing users, and I want to know which city and country they come from. So once again, we have a look at our tables. Now, when you get a chance, and these tables will differ depending on the connection source that you're connecting to. So obviously I'm receiving this from Google, but if you were connecting to an SQL server or something different, these tables will be referenced from that data source. So this time I'm going to go to my user, and I want to select, if I can click the right area, I want to select my users. and my user type. Now you'll see once again I've only selected the dimension, so I'm going to get an error in my demo display there. Now I can actually go and select my metrics from a different table. So the dimensions and the metrics don't have to be from the same table. So to get the city and the country, I'm going to go to the Geo network, and I'm going to select my city and country. And as you can see a quick simple data of the amount of users that were new, the country that they came from, and the city that they came from. So let's load that up. When it loads, it actually loads both data sets. It goes off and checks, and let's come back with my data. Now I'm just going to give this a bit of a rename. I just want to call this one, it's going to be my single data. And here what I want to create, I'm going to create a pie chart. So I click on my visualization, the pie chart visualization, it comes up. I like just to make it a bit bigger because I'm just creating the one. And then once again, I'm going to, let me just minimize report data because I'm going to select from this data. And I'm going to select my data, and I want to drag it into my values here. So I want to get my users. So there's all my users. And then I want to see, I'm going to split that up into country. So now you can see my users and which countries they're coming from in my pie chart. I'm also going to add the city to it. And what this does, you'll notice that the graph didn't change visually for me as I do this. And I'm just going to add my new users in there as well. But what you can see, I can drill down. So I can drill down one level here. So at the moment it's users by country. But if I drill into it, I can now see users by country and by city. And if I drill into it again, you can see that the graph gets a bit small, but users by country, by city, and by my new users. And over on the right-hand side, you can see the figures. If that graph, wasn't suitable, so let me go back just to users by country. I can change the visual to be a chart or a donut graph, depending on. So basically, you just need to select the visualization that displays the data the best, and once again, I can still drag in and get those features. So my next report, and will be my final one, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have two graphs and show you how they interact together. So once again, I'm going to just get my data from new data source, well, the same data source, but new tables. So connect to my Google Analytics, accept the agreement. I could tick the box that doesn't pop up, but it's just a nice reminder to let you know that these things can change over time. So this time, once again, okay, same as the last report. Let's select our user. And this time I'm going to go back to my Geo network and choose my country. And this time I want to know what browser that they're using. So if I go to my platform of device, I can select my browser. And I'm going to load that data. Once again, it refreshes all data sets that I'm requesting. And I've made a mistake on that one. And my mistake was I didn't put in the metric field. Let me just quickly redo that. Sorry for that. It takes a little bit of getting used to finding where stuff is, but the more you use it, the quicker you do become. All right, so let's go back to our user. We want our users. I'm sticking a user type just to make sure I get what I'm after. Geo network, our city, and our platform of device, which is our browser. You can tell by the icons that they're metric ones, and these ones are the measures. So let's load that up. I should have noticed that wasn't going to load because I was just sort of rushing through and didn't wait for it to give me the demo data that it was bringing in. So it's like, here it is. It's loaded up my new data set. I'm going to quickly rename this to be multiple. And you can name your data sets. Please give them a bit more meaningful names than what I'm giving it. And now let's drag on a pie chart, similar to what we did before. And in this pie chart, I want to do the browser and the user. So here we can see the amount of updating my data again. The amount of users compared to each browser. Now what I want to do, I want to add another pie chart, but this time I'm going to go the country and the user. So here you can see users by country, and in this top one you can see users by browser. Now the two graphs actually work together. So if I click on a country, so if I click on Australia, I'm just going to jump here. If you click on a country, you can see how the users by graph is automatically changed to display the data only for that country, and vice versa. If I click on a specific browser, so I'm clicking on Chrome, it shows me the users by country just for the Chrome browser. So this gets really handy when you want to sort of drill down into the data and have different reports showing and having totals. Now, so they're basically three basic reports, but you're not limited to that. After a bit of work, you can see here, you can really create some really nice base reports using different features, using different visualizations to basically show a story of your data and hear how my website's going, you know, how many hits, where it's coming from, what browsers people are using, and so forth. So that ends my demonstration in Power BI. I'm going to hand over to Bill now, who will capture the screen. If you've got any questions on it, hopefully we've got enough time at the end there for a bit of question time.
Thank you.
And yeah, feel free to ask any questions. All right, over to Bill.
Thank you, Andrew. So what I'm going to do is a demonstration of a few different types of visuals and a little bit of what else you can do with the data. So what I've done is I decided to do some analysis of some crime figures from Chicago. So I downloaded a spreadsheet, and there's an issue with the CSV file. If I open it, the dates get all mixed up because it comes down in sort of American date form, and my PC's all in Australian date form, and Excel decides to try and automatically sort that date column, but it doesn't work. So what do we do about that? Well, we can actually use Power BI to do that. And I've already done it, but I'll show you what I did. So you can do this transform data in Power BI, and you see that my file is here for me to transform data. And I had problems with these dates over here. Now, they come through as text in Power BI because of that date mismatch problem. And you can see here the 7/11. Let's find one that's totally out of whack. There we go. 09/28. Obviously not Australian date format. So what do? Well, over here to the right, you can see the steps that I've done. So the first thing I did was create a new column to fix the dates in. And how did I fix the dates? Well, what I did is, here we see up the top, I named it date, so I could find it. And then I created the text for this column from the other date column. And I won't go through the exact thing here, but basically I swapped the two dates around so that the new date column was in the right kind of order for Australian date format. And having done that, I then changed it from a text type into a date format. And if we go over to that column, we can see there nicely formatted. There we are, the 22nd of the 3rd. That would have been incorrect and errored out before. So you see here how you can use your Power BI to fix up your data before you analyze it, and potentially even clean up your data for moving to another system or even the existing system. There's tools available for you to do that. So having fixed up the date column, let's now make use of it. So we're just going to create a very simple graph just to show something similar to what Andrew did, but using our proper date column. It's important that it's a proper date column so that we can do what we're about to do. So we've got year down the bottom now. So what are we going to do? We'll just get arrests. Okay, so in this information, you've got false and true arrests. So we just want a count of arrests. So if I go and take our arrests and chuck it in values as well, it gives us a count. And here we see a count. And obviously false arrests much greater than normal arrests. So is that an issue? Well, I'm not quite sure. Obviously something that probably needs to be worked on. But is it a problem all year round? Well, we can do the same thing what Andrew did. We can drill down to the next level of dates. The advantage of having a date field is it knows about quarters. So now we can see by quarter. So it looks like by quarter, the number of false arrests goes up in these middle two quarters. But interestingly, the true arrests still fairly steady. I wonder if that is the same for months. And here you go, you just drill down to months. So easy to be able to analyze your data across years, months, quarters, without having to build a whole lot of different graphs and having to swap between the graphs. So there's that simple idea. But this crime data, it's got location data, which allows us to do something quite special, and that is to create a map view of our data. So let's make this map a reasonable size for ourselves so we see what's going on. And we see over here, I've got latitude and longitude, which is part of our map data. So it's quite smart. It can see we've named it correctly. So if I click them in, it goes into the right fields here. However, we still don't have our data. What's going on? Why have we got an error? Well, it's because whenever you have number fields, it tries to do something with the numbers, in this case, sum, but we don't want to sum it. So latitude and longitude. So we just tell it not to summarize. So get in there, tell it not to summarize, and then we'll get our map. Now, what do we want to put on this map? Well, let's put the type of arrest on our map. So we've got the type of arrest now. So different colors for the different types. That's not zoomed in very good. Why is that? We see it's all sort of bunched up here. But if we look down here at the bottom, we see that we've got some way away from Chicago. Well, maybe that's an error. So we might want to find out which ones those are and fix up the error so it makes more sense. But perhaps it's true, some people from Chicago Police Department had to go down and do some work down here. But it's not helping us with our analysis, is it? So what can we do? Well, if we highlight it, you'll notice that the latitude comes up for me, 36.6. So if I just show it, filter out these ones down here, we'll be able to zoom in. So how do we do that? We go to our filter column over here, and on the latitude, I will say I want to see everything that's greater than 36.7, because I think that would be higher than it. If we apply the filter, then what should happen is I've lost those ones. Now I'm zoomed in a bit more over Chicago, so that's good. Okay, it's a little bit hard to analyze anything here. I can zoom in. It is a map feature. I can zoom in. Okay, but well, don't know about you, but I still have a bit of trouble trying to work out what's going on here. So what can I do? Well, let's move our map across to the right. We'll add another little feature in here over to the left. This is similar to what Andrew was doing with graphs, but this is a very specialized feature that they call a slicer. So let's put a slicer in over here. And what this slicer does is allow us to select from a list. So we'll put our primary type into this slicer. And now we get the opportunity to just choose a type. So if I choose a type, arson, where is arson? Okay, so there we go. Now we can see a little bit more shape in our graph. We can see that arson's a little bit more isolated. So that's kind of helps us to analyze our data a little bit more. It's quite visual and it's easy to see where it's more important or less important. How about we choose gambling? Okay, now this is even more of a pattern. I wonder if there's anything else that's similar to gambling. Let's see what happens if we choose homicide at the same time. Okay, they're reasonably close. Now I can put one over the top of the other. And this, at the moment, I've got to hold the control key down when I do this. I put one over the top of the other, and it kind of looks like that they are related to each other. Let's zoom in a little bit. Whoops, a little bit too far. And like as a graphical thing, particularly up here in this section, it looks like we've got a bit of a issue where gambling and homicide just might be related. Can't tell for sure, but this kind of visualization helps you to spot things quite more easily, doesn't it? And I'm aware of another one that's very close to this. If I click on prostitution as well and zoom in, we'll see that it also has this little bit of a sort of, especially in this nasty little area up here, there seems to be some correlation there, isn't there? So perhaps we've got an issue that we need to look into. Now, this data's got the whole of Chicago in it at the moment. Perhaps I belong in a particular ward. So what can I do to examine my ward in this situation? Well, let's just add another slicer to our list. Oops, I made a mistake there. Not supposed to change my graph. I should have, let's go to the empty space and add our slicer. Okay, now we can move this around so you can see I can line it up nicely with what's there already. Nice little bars to line it up. And let's chuck the ward data into here. So, come on. Okay, now we got it. So I've got ward data in here. Now, if I select a particular ward, so let's look at Ward 19. See how it zooms in the map right into our ward here so that we can really focus on our ward. So fortunately in Ward 19, not too much of a problem in this area. So that's quite handy. Ward 14, a little bit more of a problem there. So you can see we can move around. Oh, Ward 15. perhaps this is an area that needs to look into this a little bit more and see what needs to be done. So you see how you can analyze your data even greater. This data happens to take us all the way down to blocks if we wanted to, because we could examine the data on individual blocks and zoom in and zoom out as we wish. So a very handy feature, this map feature, for anything that might distribute itself across a space on a map. And it's all very easy to set up and use and examine your data as you've just seen. So now I'll be passing on to Yeoman then, so that he can show his part of the demonstration. Thanks, Yeoman.
Thanks, Bill. So as you can see from both Bill and Andrew's demonstrations, you can actually see that there's a lot of things you can actually start to visualize. Now, they particularly chose some different data sources such as Google Analytics and the Chicago crime data that was available from the Chicago police. So what I'm going to show is basically how we can take it to the next level. And this is a set of reports that was created using something called Dashboard in a Day. It's an actual online whole day course where you can learn how to make something called dashboards. And dashboards are interactive experiences that you can have to actually help you tell stories about your data, or to find and have a more interactive experiences with your data, because it's really fun for you to create reports such as the one that you see on screen. You're going to actually have to use this data. You're going to have to do things like drill down. You're going to have to do things like actual pick out trends, and you have to pick out what's next. What do we do with this data? What's it telling us? What do we do for our business? So I've got this particular series of data from a whole series of Excel spreadsheets. Now, those Excel spreadsheets can be exported from maybe your accounting software or accounting systems, for example. And the good news is, as soon as you update the data in them, then this sort of data that you show in reports gets updated. So it's really, really powerful. So beyond Excel workbooks, as you saw with Andrew's demonstration, you could take it from an online service like Google, or you can take it from another set of data from another outside source, or whatever. So we've just created this report. It's a series of reports that actually is into this. So the next step is, what do we do with it? We need to share it with someone. We need to actually make it accessible from those who actually make decisions in the organization. So you may not make a decision, but you've helped create the reports from the data that has been presented from wherever the data source may be. So we can even do things like go to a mobile view. So you can actually go to a mobile layout. And so what you can do is you can actually create, by pulling in different tiles, as you see on the side here, you can actually pull in things to a representation on a mobile screen, for example. So you can lay it out like that, and that's what it might look in a mobile layout. And you can build these things because, well, we live in the age where you need to access data, more importantly, reports and visualizations from any device. So Microsoft has quite handily incorporated that we can do things within a mobile layout, which is fantastic. The other thing you can do is, at this Power BI desktop level, is, well, we need to share it so that others in management need to see this data. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to publish it. And where can we publish it to? Well, if you just click on the publish, I made some changes, but it will ask me, well, when do I want to publish it to? Well, typically what Power BI does is it wants to publish it into what we call the Power BI service that's in the cloud as part of your Microsoft 365 business subscriptions. So what you can do is, I've already created a workspace here. You can just, I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So I select the one that I pre-created, and I'll just hit select. And what it's going to do is tell me I've already done this before, so I'm just going to replace it. So what it's going to do is replace it with maybe more updated data that I have. So while that's doing that, where it's going to go is it's going to go into in Power BI. So here's our Microsoft 365 portal that you probably have used before. And in there, as you can see, there is the Power BI. So when you click on that, it'll actually open the Power BI service, and which will do that. Now, this should tell me, going back here in my desktop version, it says success. We've actually gone and we created basically our report into the cloud, i.e. the Power BI service. So we don't need that anymore. So in here, we can see the final report that we actually did. So in here, we've got workspaces, and this is where we actually create whatever workspaces, depending on what type of dashboard or sets of dashboards and reports you want to actually create. Now, I created one called DIAD, but you can actually just go ahead and create one, and you can call it whatever you want. Because I already created it, this is a very simple wizard. So you just create it and it'll just add it to the number of workspaces. So when you go back to your dashboard, you can publish again and actually publish it to the new workspace that you created. So what happens when it's actually taken the report into the workspace? Now, this looks very similar to what we had in the dashboard. Okay. But what we are able to do is we are now able to create a dashboard from this report. So what we can do is we can actually select any one of these tiles that we've used to create the report. So from all the different visualizations of all the data, and we can do things like pin the visual. So we can actually pin it to a existing dashboard, or we can pin it to a new dashboard. So we'll just call it VA, Van Arsdale. And so what is that is we actually start creating a brand new dashboard, and it tells you about it. Well, this visualization has been pinned to your dashboard, etc. So what you can actually do is then you can start adding any of these things into your dashboard. And this isn't the be all and end all of the reports. There are things that you can actually drill down into as well. So what you can do is we'll just pin growth percentage by manufacturer. So this particular thing, we can pin that to the new dashboard because we're creating it. There it goes. And we just add to it. And what we can do is then go to by manufacturer, and we can go to in here, and we can actually drill down into somewhere like or use another page from our report. So we can say, right, review by country, growth by percentage, or any one of these things, as you can see. And the best part is these reports are interactive. So we want to try and do that in our spreadsheet. So we can actually drill down if some of these reports do it. But what we're going to do today is we can actually choose from, because I've recreated this, literally but a different manufacturer. So we can go by Van Arsdale. So that just filters out the data to Van Arsdale. And we can actually do things like pin in that particular rep. So existing dashboard VA. Right. Select, go away. So we can go back into market share. We can actually go via country as well. So where I'm talking about is if you can right mouse click, so you actually started from the whole world. This particular company is international. So what you can actually do based on the map, as you saw what Bill do, is you can actually, in the reports even, let alone in dashboards, is start drilling it down. So keep drilling. We'll drill through by manufacturer. And you can now start picking out this particular data is actually showing New South Wales sales data, for instance. So you can start doing things like pinning it as a visual to the existing dashboard. So what you can do is you can get a series of these different tiles from any part of the reports that you create, and start putting it together into a dashboard. Now, if we go into the finished version, it looks something like that. So what you can do is you can also do things like this. Here's my dashboard. You can actually, that's lost my workspace. Back into my dashboard. And you can actually do some more cool things with this dashboard because we've just put it together. So we can actually add things like images, like a logo to the report. So it looks more like an interactive report for management because they like seeing their own company name in there. And you can also do things like add particular interactiveness for your dashboard. So you can actually do a Q&A on the actual data that you have. So for instance, we can do things like the Van Arsdale market share. So we can start actually typing in, or anyone that you share the dashboard with can actually start doing things like this. So you can actually pick out particular statistics or particular data. So what you can do is you can also say, well, let's enhance this a little bit further. And it's all plain English, no program required. It's, there you go, my country. Look at that. Then you want to make it one better. Let's do a different sort of visual. When I spell it right. Let's say we want a tree map. And there you go. You can actually see some actual visual data, and it doesn't have to be you. You've already created the dashboard. This is stuff that can be interactive from your audience or whoever needs to see these reports too. So I can actually literally pin this visual, which I've already done for you, and it will appear as a tile as part of the dashboard if you want. So this is where the real power of Power BI is. You're presenting your data in something that looks visual so that you can then question it even further using plain English in order to pick up the real trends, or maybe from here, like with Bill's instance, he actually found an outlier somewhere else. You start to see how Power BI can highlight certain stories or certain trends and certain things to you to help your business actually find the real issues maybe from this data and solve and create solutions for them. All right. So what I want to finish on is, well, okay, we've got a dashboard here. Well, I can share it out. So you can create a share. So if we hear share, you can actually share it via email so people can link it to it. The other thing you can do to it is with any reports, and especially the reports that you already created, you can actually display it in Microsoft Teams. The other thing you can do, so here we go, we've got our Power BI demo that we have, and you will notice that when it finally shows up, that this is the report showing in Microsoft Teams. So you can actually use it in Microsoft Teams, and you can do chats and collaborations or run a meeting with it. So you can use this report there to actually show what's going on. Now, the other thing you can do this is my mobile phone. This is the Power BI app on my mobile phone, and this shows, again, the report. So this is not limited to by sitting at your computer. You can share this out via Teams, either on the mobile or on the desktop, but also you can use the Power BI app to actually show dashboards and reports on it. So this is really powerful stuff that you can actually have all your management team, no matter where they are on any device, view it and actually make decisions based on it, because it's right then and there wherever you are. So that's pretty much my demonstration to show how powerful this stuff is at a management level, that you can see this data. And on that, I think we have some takeaways that to summarize what other big things you can do with Power BI. So I'll hand back over to Robert.
Thanks very much, Yeoman. Just let me see if I can get these slides to come back up for everybody. Take a moment or two. So again, thank everybody for their attention. We've run a little bit over time. Do apologise for that. But again, we'll now open it up to any Q&A that you might have. We don't have any appearing here in the queue as yet, so please type them into the chat or raise your hand and we can take you off mute and give you access to ask a question to the guys directly. Remember that the slides will be made available to you after the fact. And again, the idea is that the recording will also be available to you. But as for some takeaways, remember that Power BI is pretty easy to use. If you're familiar and comfortable using things like Excel, especially if you're used to using pivot tables, you should find a lot of similarities with that. It helps you solve problems, as Bill was able to call out. He was able to talk about, analysing the data, being able to quickly shift between locations, look for matches, those sort of things you can really take advantage of, which can be difficult to find within lots of data. You can also take data, as we've demonstrated, from websites, Google Analytics, Excel, accounting systems, and so on. So again, don't think that you can't interface to any sorts of data you may have. You can also transform and clean that data as well if you want to go through, that process to get rid of any, like I said, update the dates as Bill mentioned in his presentation, for example. And we can also display it over time as well, which is also very handy to see trends as they happen. And we can also do those plain English queries in the Power BI. So someone can create, an analyst can create those reports and hand them off to management or to a higher level to just do basic plain English queries in there. So as always, there are some resources there for you to take advantage of. We'll make sure we get, like I said, the slides out so that you can have a look at those URLs directly. Obviously, notice the learning path and the training days down the bottom there that are coming up in January. If you want to sign up for those, they're free content from Microsoft to get involved with. I think the guys have pretty much done most of those as well. But again, contact them directly to get feedback on that. Again, if you want to make sure that you stay up to date with everything in the Power Platform and the Microsoft 365 environment, please look at ciaopspatron.com. You can sign up there for a paid subscription, gain access to a team and all the resources that we do make available there for people. And again, I will call out and see if there are any last questions before we look at rounding our session off for today. Again, been a little bit over time. Do apologise for that. We'll be back again in early January running a webinar, so keep an eye out for that. If you do have any topics or things that you'd like to see, please, by all means, don't hesitate to get in contact with me or any of the guys and make some suggestions. It's always much easier to use, real world examples or real world questions that people have rather than necessarily, manufacturing demos from what we find out there. So again, all right, well, I don't see any questions that have come through, so I'll take this opportunity to again thank you for attending and your support over 2021. We look forward to engaging with you again in 2022. We wish you all the best for Christmas and the new year and look forward to seeing you again in 2022.